In this video, we're going to continue on with working through chapter 3. The first video was doing a glass material, and now we're going to work on making the hologram material for the Christmas tree. So I already have my scene saved out into my folder. I'm going to go ahead and create a new material called M_Christmas tree _ hologram. And let's make sure that we do apply it to the Christmas tree. But notice, there are two materials on here, the Christmas tree base and the Christmas tree hologram. So let's make sure we place the Christmas tree hologram on that object. So I'm going to open it up, and the first thing we do need to do is change some blend modes on here. So with this selected, let's make sure that we switch the blend mode from opaque to translucent. And we can begin. First things first, let's do a texture node. So let me get some space, hold T. We're also going to add a constant, so hold 1 and click, and then we're also going to need a cheap contrast. So let's find cheap contrast and create that. And let's see, so the texture we're going to need, we're going to search for T_Christmas tree. And we're looking for Christmas tree _D. So that's this one right here. So we're going to just plug the red channel into the cheap contrast. And we're going to then put this into that contrast amount. And we're going to set this to 0.2. We're going to need a couple extra nodes. We need a multiply node. Oops. Let's do multiply. And we're going to feed the cheap contrast into A. We're going to do another constant into B. And we're going to set this one to 2. So handy thing that we can do is, if we're not quite ready to hook this all up yet, but we kind of want to see what's going on, one thing that we could do to do that is we could right click on that multiply node and choose start previewing node. And what this will do is it'll kind of show us what's going on. I'm actually going to switch it to like a plain. We can always switch it to, our different shapes to see that a little bit better if you needed to. But we can kind of see we're basically getting kind of like a contrasty black and white version of that Christmas tree. Let's do the plain, because it's like kind of like the unwrap. That's on it. Where'd you go? I guess that's fine too. We're getting the cheap, like the country, like we can see that this was the original and this is kind of what we're going out with. So we can always just stop, right click, stop preview, enable, and go back. We can keep going. We're going to need a lot more space though, so let's start moving this over. What we're going to need is another multiply node and another constant. So we'll hook this into here. We'll need a constant vector 3, so we'll hold 3 and click this time. Oops, sorry. And what we're kind of going for is like a bluish tint. And if you just want to type in those numbers to get it exact, so it has like that holographic effect, the numbers are 0.52, 0.55, and 0.74. And we can then feed this one into here. Again, if you want to see what it's doing, we can just start previewing that node. And we're starting to get kind of like that bluish kind of tint to it now, moving more towards that holographic sort of look. We now need to work on getting kind of like that holographic, like wireframe look to it. So we're going to have to create a new texture node. And we're going to put on here T underscore Christmas tree. And we're looking for the UVs, this one. We don't really want it to be, you know, that white color. So let's add a multiply. And we're going to do a another constant 3 of like a blue. These values are 0.045, 0.16, and 0.79. And we'll just feed this all into here. And we can see that this works basically the same as like a multiply in Photoshop. Like it's the exact same kind of concept. If that kind of helps you think about what these are doing. The next step is to actually give it that glow sort of look. And we're going to do this with even another multiply node. We're going to feed this into here. And, you know, we can just directly type in this B value. And, you know, this is where we can kind of experiment a little bit. We start previewing this node. We can see what it looks like, but watch this. So what if we put in 10? We can see that it's getting pretty glowy. Why not really push it to like a 50? And now we're getting that extreme kind of glowing effect to this. So that works. I think that looks a lot closer to like that glowing kind of holographic effect. So we can work with this one. Okay, so we'll need to start connecting these all up. We'll need to first create a lerp because we got our first one and our second one. We'll do a lerp node. So hold L and click. We're going to feed in first that color, you know, that contrasted out one. We then want to add our glow effect. We want to be adding that glow effect anywhere that we actually have this, like our wireframe. So wherever it's actually a wireframe, we want to add the glowy wireframe on top of it. And we can do this by just feeding this as the alpha. Let me feed that better. Let me take a look. So we are getting that the old wood grain washed out. We're getting this on top of it. So it's moving along. It'll look okay, but it's still not going to have kind of like that holographic effect that we're kind of going for. And in order to really push that, in fact, let's feed this in. We can see what it looks like. Let's feed this into base color. And it's just kind of straight out. Like it looks not great. So we want to kind of give it more of like that, you know, look. And the way that we can achieve this is by using our favorite special node, the Fresnel node. So let's go ahead and add a Fresnel node. we're going to want to lerp this into there. So I'm going to add another lerp. Oops, that's right. Hold L and click. We're going to feed the first lerp into here. We're then going to make a multiply node. And feed that into here. And this out into the B. Let's adjust some settings for this multiply node. Make this B value something like a 10. And let's hook up the Fresnel node. The Fresnel node is actually going to be hooked into the alpha then of this other lerp we made. But let's make sure the Fresnel is set up correctly. For its settings, the exponent should be set to about an 8. And 0.01 for its base reflection fraction. All right, so let's finish hooking this back up. And if we save, still not quite there. So the thing that we did wrong, and this is fine just to make sure that it's kind of going on correctly, is we don't actually want to hook it into the base color. So we want to get rid of this connection. Let's delete this. I always forget which thing it is. Which click. There we go. Good enough. And we want to hook this into our emissive color instead. Hit save. There you go. And it's getting kind of a more eerie sort of look to it. It's subtle. It's brighter here and it's a little bit dimmer on the outside because of that Fresnel. You see the Fresnel kind of going on. The next step is going to be to work a little bit with the opacity now, so that we have some variation in that. That's going to definitely boost this up. So let's kind of move this out of the way. We got a little bit wild with this time. Let's move this up. And we're going to utilize a new texture. We're going to need what is called the T underscore Christmas tree underscore scan lines. And these are just like vertical black and white lines. So one of the problems though with this is not going to look well on this unwrap. You know, we want this to go evenly kind of, you know, straight lined on this, but you can see this unwrap is kind of curved for the way that it was unwrapped. We don't want to have to re-unwrap this. So what we can do is use a node to help us project this onto the shape and kind of bypass those UVs so we don't need to re-unwrap this. So what this node is called the bounding box based 01 underscore UVW node. And this will project our stuff, this material, this texture onto it without having to fix the UVs. This actually goes over here. And we'll also need to make a float 2. So let's find the make float 2 node. Set that up over here. And we need to connect the R value from here into the X input pin. Let me zoom in a little bit. And the B value into the Y pin. So that we'll be able to, it'll accurately project this onto this. It's not going to quite work correctly. We need a couple extra nodes. So what we're going to need next is something called a 1- node. And this will invert all the values. So let's feed that into there. We'll also want to do a multiply node. Feed this into here. And we're going to multiply it by 3. This will help control the scale of the textures and how things are affected with it. Let's see. Next, we want to make this kind of move up and, scale, move along it so it looks like it's kind of like a scanning sort of like update thing. So we're going to use that panner node that we talked about in the first week. And we'll hook this into the coordinates. We'll leave the speed set to 0 for the X, but we'll choose a speed for Y. Something really slow, like a 0.025 should work. And then finally, we're going to hook this into the UVs of our texture sample. Let's see what it's doing so far. All right, you're going to let me preview. What's going on? It's not letting me. That's strange. What is going on? Scan lines. Usually it does. There we go. We'll skip that. That's strange. It's not letting me preview what it looks like. Yeah, start preview. I want this one. Oh, there it is. I'm blind. There we go. And let's also switch this to real time. And you can see we're getting kind of like that movement. It's very subtle, but that will really help make this feel very hologrammy. So let's turn that back off. To push it though, we can have 2 scan lines going at the same time. Or like I don't know, it kind of reminds me of like a scan line, like an old TV. That's why I'm kind of calling it that. So I'm going to select all this, Control D. But we're going to change this multiply from 3 to something like a 6. And if we preview this one, you can kind of see the difference. Like it's smaller. Do you see that? Stop that sample. Turn that off. We then need to put these together. We can just use an add node for that. Just feed those into there. Again, if you want to preview it. You can see kind of the effect it gives. And we're not actually going to hook this directly into our opacity. Instead, we're going to use this more as a mask for 2 different opacity values. So let me show you how this will work much more interesting than just that solid white. So let's add 2 colors. So I'm just going to hold T, I'm sorry, not T, 3, to do a first kind of like a grayish. We're going to set this one to 0.2 on all. We get kind of like this gray. And then, what did I do? That was weird. We'll do one that's just white. So 1 on all the values. We're then going to lerp these together. So let's get our lerp. Just feeding this into here, this into there, and this add from all of that stuff is now going to be our alpha for those two. And if you want to kind of see what it looks like again, sometimes it's really interesting to see what these are doing. If we zoom in, you can really see the effect that's going on then. All right, let's hook this into opacity now. So we just need to go ahead and put that into there. Oops. And we can see what's going on with that. Let's save it and take a look at our Christmas tree. We're getting kind of that weird, kind of scanny sort of effect to it. We're getting that subtle Fresnel around the edges. And we're getting, you know, a much more fun look. It was kind of also neat to use that bounding box node to be able to apply that texture to it without having to worry about unwrapping it. Don't think that now you don't ever have to unwrap anything. This is just more of like for pattern placement and stuff like that. So hopefully you found this one fun. I think this is one of the more interesting ones that we do to get kind of that neat, moving, glowing sort of look.